She thought the story she was chasing could shake a city. She never imagined it would shake her marriage. Olivia is a fearless investigative journalist, sharp, principled, and unwilling to back down from exposing the truth. When she's assigned to uncover a billion-dollar fraud tied to a powerful Los Angeles businessman, she dives head first into the shadows, unaware that every step forward puts a target on her back. But while she faces danger in LA, something deeper brews back home. Her husband, Marcus, calm, supportive, unassuming, watches from New York, sensing something is wrong. What Olivia doesn't know is that Marcus holds a secret, a massive one that could change everything they've built. As threats close in and betrayal surfaces from someone she trusted, Olivia must fight to protect her name, her story, and the truth. And in the background, Marcus quietly moves mountains, risking everything to protect the woman he loves, even if it means revealing a part of himself he's kept hidden for years. Can love survive secrets born from protection? Can loyalty hold when truth feels like a lie? Hit subscribe to follow a gripping journey of courage, deception, and the power of partnership, because sometimes the bravest stories happen behind the scenes. The rain hadn't let up all day in Manhattan, but inside the warm, bustling newsroom of the New York Chronicle, Olivia Hartley barely noticed. Her focus was glued to the manila envelope in front of her, its red, confidential stamp half smeared, like the words inside were itching to be exposed. She leaned back in her chair, heart racing, eyes darting between the documents. Spreadsheets, internal memos, offshore transfers, and, at the center of it all, one name in bold black print: Victor Stone. "You've been asking for something big," said Eleanor Chang, her editor-in-chief, standing behind her with arms crossed. "Well, this one has teeth, but I won't lie, Liv. It's dangerous. Stone isn't the kind of man you can poke with a pen and walk away untouched." Olivia closed the folder gently, then looked up. "How dangerous are we talking?" Eleanor's eyes flickered. "Think off-the-record threats? Private jets? Lawyers on speed dial? But if you can crack this wide open, you're not just writing a front-pager. You're setting the standard for investigative journalism in this decade." Olivia's breath caught for a second, part nerves, part pride. "L.A.?" she asked, already knowing the answer. "Your flight leaves tomorrow. Pack light, move quiet, and, Olivia..." "Yeah? Don't be a hero. Be smart." Back at home that evening, Olivia found Marcus in the kitchen humming to a jazz playlist while sautéing garlic and onions. The apartment smelled like comfort: rosemary, olive oil, and love. "You're quiet," Marcus said, glancing over his shoulder with a knowing smile. Olivia leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed. "Gotta sign something big." He turned off the burner. "Bigger than that weapons contractor story last spring? Bigger, riskier, Los Angeles." He nodded slowly, lips pressing into a thin line. "How long? A week? Maybe 2? Marcus crossed the kitchen, resting his hands gently on her arms. "You sure you're ready for this one?" Olivia looked up at him. "I think I have to be." He searched her eyes for a long moment, then pulled her into his arms. "Just promise me you'll be careful." "I always am," Marcus chuckled softly. "That's what scares me." They ate dinner in comfortable silence, punctuated by casual glances and half-smiles that carried more weight than words ever could. Olivia noticed, again, how Marcus never tried to stop her from chasing truth, even when it scared him. Later, as she packed a small suitcase, Marcus walked into the bedroom holding a travel-size coffee thermos. "For the red-eye," he said, placing it in her carry-on, "filled with your favorite blend." Olivia smiled and cupped his cheek. "You always know." What she didn't know was that Marcus had secrets of his own. Long after Olivia fell asleep, Marcus sat at his desk in the living room, a secure laptop open and an encrypted messaging app active. On screen, financial holdings and company assets scrolled in rapid sequence: names, shell firms, cross-linked investments, all under Lexford Holdings. And Marcus Holloway was at the top. He stared at a surveillance image of Victor Stone, then typed, "Initiate background trace. Target, Victor Stone. Priority, immediate." He hit send. Marcus had always believed in protecting Olivia's independence, but now, as she stepped into the lion's den, he couldn't stay on the sidelines. Not when the man she was chasing had ties to a past Marcus thought he'd buried. He closed the laptop and walked back to their bedroom. Olivia stirred slightly, then settled again. Marcus brushed a hand through her hair and whispered, "You chase the truth. I'll chase the shadows." Los Angeles greeted Olivia with the kind of sun New York rarely offered in February. Warm, golden, almost deceiving. The city looked too bright for the story she'd come to chase. She stepped out of LAX's Terminal 4, rolling her black carry-on behind her. The air buzzed with weekend traffic and honking horns, but her mind was already deep in spreadsheets and shell companies. She opened her phone, reviewing the tip that started it all, an anonymous email linking Victor Stone's real estate empire to several fraudulent offshore funds. A rideshare pulled up, and Olivia slid into the back seat. "Downtown, please. Kensington Building," she said to the driver, her voice firm. "Big case?" he asked, glancing at her notepad and laptop bag. She smiled politely. "You could say that." 30 minutes later, she arrived at a co-working hub on the 17th floor of an old Art Deco building. The walls were lined with tall windows and succulents perched on white desks. It felt too serene for what she was about to do. By early afternoon, she was knee-deep in public filings, quietly cross-referencing corporate names and tracing fund transfers with a financial consultant she'd worked with before, Noah Kaplan, ex-SEC, now freelance. "This here," Noah said, pointing to a highlighted transaction, "isn't just suspicious. It's illegal. If this leads back to Stone, he's looking at federal charges." Olivia leaned in, brows furrowed. "Can we trace the holding company further?" Noah hesitated. "It's buried deep. Whoever's behind it knew what they were doing. But if you get me more data, maybe an internal audit or whistleblower—" She nodded. "I'll work on it." She stepped out around dusk to clear her head and grab coffee from a small spot down the block. As she waited for her drink, her phone vibrated. A known number. She answered. "Hello?" A male voice, low, deliberate. "You're digging where you shouldn't." Olivia froze. "Who is this?" The line went dead. She glanced around. The street was still, mostly empty, just a woman walking her dog and a man in a dark baseball cap across the street, leaning against a lamppost. She turned back toward the cafe and pushed the door open quickly, heart thudding. Back in the co-working space, she double-checked the locks and drew the blinds. Later that night, she called Marcus. "Hey," he said, his voice calm. "How's LA?" She hesitated for a beat. Productive. A little strange, though. Strange how? She thought of the call, the man across the street, the static in her gut, but she didn't want to worry him, not yet. Just long hours. LA's got a weird energy. Marcus didn't press. "You're doing something important, but just don't let the story consume you, okay?" Olivia smiled, softened by his care. "I won't. Promise." They talked for a few more minutes. Small things. What he cooked for dinner, what book he was rereading. She didn't know that while they spoke, Marcus was scrolling through the same surveillance files he'd opened the night she left. A name popped up on screen. Ethan Sharp. Marcus narrowed his eyes. Olivia's colleague. Her rival. And, apparently, the weak link Victor Stone had begun to exploit. He leaned back in his chair, hands steepled. If Ethan was involved, things were worse than Olivia realized, and if Marcus had to burn his anonymity to keep her safe, he'd do it without hesitation. Back in L.A., Olivia closed her laptop, took a deep breath, and turned off the lights. She was getting closer, and someone was starting to feel it. In the heart of Midtown Manhattan, the New York Chronicle newsroom buzzed as usual. Ringing phones, clacking keyboards, the occasional burst of laughter from an intern who hadn't yet been crushed by a deadline. But at desk 27B, Ethan Sharp sat still, his jaw tight as he reread the morning's internal memo. Olivia Hartley, assigned to West Coast investigation. Lead story. Bylines expected. His name, nowhere. He dropped the printout on his desk and leaned back in his chair, the fluorescent lights casting shadows over the bitterness on his face. Olivia, golden girl, fearless, praised. She got the front-page exposés, the attention, the respect. He got follow-up pieces and lukewarm nods from senior editors. It hadn't always been that way. 2 years ago, he was the rising star. Then Olivia transferred from the Washington Bureau and, in one sweep of her polished reporting and unflinching ethics, eclipsed him. His phone buzzed, unknown number. He stared at it for a second before picking up. Sharp. "Ethan," the voice said, smooth and controlled. "We have a shared interest. Who is this?" "Someone who doesn't appreciate Olivia Hartley's curiosity." Ethan went quiet. "I believe she's in Los Angeles right now," the man continued, "working on something dangerous, to both of us." There was a pause, then the voice added, "We can make her story go away, and we can make your career go further." Ethan's stomach twisted. "What are you talking about?" "Victor Stone is offering you a choice. We know Olivia's itinerary. We just need someone to confirm she'll be alone. No harm, just misdirection. In return, you'll get the West Coast desk. Editor's blessing." Ethan stood and walked quickly to the hallway, away from curious ears. "Is this some kind of test?" he asked, whispering. "Because if it is, it's an opportunity," the voice interrupted. "One she'll take from you, again and again, if you don't act. Send us her hotel and calendar details. That's it. One email, and your promotion is signed." The line went dead. Ethan stared out the hallway window. Snow was falling lightly. Each flake floated down, innocent and quiet, so unlike the war he was about to step into. Back at his desk, he opened Olivia's shared calendar. Her location was blocked. Smart. But her assistant had mentioned the Kensington co-working space in L.A. earlier that week. A few clicks, and he had what they wanted: meeting times, project labels, and a screenshot of her flight back. He hesitated, fingers hovering above the keyboard. Then he typed, "Subject, travel update. Hartley, see attached. Confidential. Don't contact again. Send." Across the country in Los Angeles, Olivia sat in a dim corner of the co-working space, sipping green tea and poring over a scanned contract marked with Victor Stone's initials. She didn't know the walls were closing in. Marcus, still in New York, stared at his encrypted dashboard. A new alert blinked. Unauthorized access. Olivia Hartley itinerary. Source, internal. IP. Match, Chronicle HQ. He sat up straighter, eyes narrowing. "Ethan," he muttered. He picked up his phone and dialed his private investigator. "Track communications between Ethan Sharp and anyone tied to Victor Stone," he said. "Don't alert Olivia yet. Just stay close." "Yes, sir," came the reply. As Marcus hung up, a pang of guilt hit his chest. He had promised himself he wouldn't interfere in Olivia's work, not unless it became life-threatening. But the line had just been crossed. And he wasn't about to let her walk into a trap set by a man in a suit and another in her own newsroom. The invitation arrived by text. Private industry mixer, big names. One of Victor's ex-partners will be there, might talk. Tonight, 9 p.m. Willcrest Estate. Dress well. Nate. Olivia stared at the message, then checked the contact again. Nate Rivera, a former PR director who'd once worked with one of Victor Stone's holding companies until he'd quietly disappeared from the circuit. She'd reached out a week ago with no reply. Now, suddenly, he wanted to meet? Her instincts prickled, but the timing was too perfect to ignore. She needed names, records, a witness who could put Stone's voice behind the fraud. If Nate had any of that, even off the record, she had to follow the lead. That night, Olivia slipped into a black blazer dress and low heels, tying her curls back into a sleek ponytail. She added a soft shade of lipstick, neutral but confident, and left her notebook and phone recorder inside her crossbody bag, beside pepper spray and a backup USB. Willcrest Estate was perched in the Hollywood Hills, lit up like something out of a movie premiere. Valets in black waited at the entrance. Jazz flowed from inside like honey. She gave her name to the host and stepped into the grand foyer, swallowed by crystal chandeliers and the smell of expensive perfume. Glasses clinked. Laughter floated across the marble floors. She scanned the crowd. Nate wasn't in sight. At the bar, she ordered sparkling water and texted him. Here. Where are you? No response. She tried to stay calm, drifting through the crowd like she belonged. At the edge of the room, a security guard whispered into a mic clipped to his collar. Olivia made a mental note. 10 minutes passed. Still no Nate. She was about to leave when a man in a navy suit approached, drink in hand. You, Olivia Hartley? He asked, voice low and steady. Her spine straightened. Yes, he smiled. Nate said to give you this. He slipped a small flash drive into her hand. Said it's what you're looking for. Said you'd understand. She eyed the man. No name offered, no phone number, just that grin. Where is he? She asked. The man shrugged. Left early. Something felt off. She nodded politely, then stepped into the hallway toward the powder room. Once inside, she locked the door, opened her laptop, and plugged in the flash drive. Nothing. Just static. Then, an error. File unreadable. A chill crept down her arms. Suddenly, her vision blurred. The light flickered above. She clutched the counter to steady herself. No. She opened her bag, fumbled for her water bottle, and sipped. The taste was sharp. Off. Her knees buckled. Her hands trembled. They'd drugged her. She grabbed her phone, snapped a photo of the flash drive's serial number, and staggered toward the exit. The hallway spun. A tall man stepped into her path, one of the same security guards from earlier. Miss, you look like you've had a bit too much. Come sit down, he said, hand lightly touching her arm. I'm good, she said, forcing her legs to move. I'm fine. She shoved past him, adrenaline kicking in, and bolted down the stairs. Her heel snapped. She kicked the shoes off and ran barefoot to the valet line. Taxi! She barked, breath shallow. Now! A driver pulled up, clearly startled by her panic. She threw herself into the back seat. Downtown. Fast. Back at her hotel, Olivia locked the door behind her and collapsed against it, gasping. Her notebook was gone. Her notes from earlier that week, missing. Her entire case so far, stolen. She curled into herself on the carpet, shame and fury boiling under her skin. This wasn't just about a story anymore. Someone wanted her silenced. And now, she knew it wasn't just Victor. Someone had helped him. Someone who knew where she'd be. The morning sunlight filtered through the curtains of their New York apartment, but Marcus Holloway hadn't slept. He sat at the dining table, a cold cup of coffee untouched in front of him. Olivia's last message still blinked on his phone. "Back at hotel. Don't worry. Weird night. Call in the morning." She hadn't called, and the last time they spoke, something in her voice felt off, like the warmth had cooled into calculation, like she was holding something back. Marcus tapped the table, then unlocked his encrypted laptop. Within seconds, a secure dashboard loaded. Live data, security pings, phone metadata. He clicked the feed from the GPS tracker he'd discreetly embedded in her laptop bag months ago, not to control, but to protect. He'd never activated it before, not until last night. Location: Wilcrest Estate, 9:12 p.m. Location: Downtown Hotel, 10:03 p.m. Why the sudden jump? No other stops, no calls, nothing recorded but a taxi ride and a 3-minute login to a private network server. He picked up his phone and dialed his private investigator, Dante Rhodes. "She's not okay," Marcus said without a greeting. "Last night, something happened at a party in the hills. I want facial recognition on all registered guests at Wilcrest. Cross-check any known affiliates with Victor Stone." "I'm on it," Dante replied. "Any reason to involve local PD?" "Not yet. She doesn't know I'm in this. I want to keep it that way, for now." Marcus closed his laptop. He'd built Lexford Holdings with a simple rule: control the flow of information, and you control the outcome. But with Olivia, he'd broken his own rules, choosing transparency and love, even while hiding his true reach. Now, the woman he loved was bleeding trust to stay brave. And that made him furious. By the time he landed in Los Angeles that afternoon, Marcus had activated an entire satellite team: researchers, cyber analysts, and legal consultants, all operating under aliases. At a private suite in the Ritz, he assembled the data Dante had gathered. "We found her notes in the hands of a private contractor linked to Stone's real estate firm," Dante said, tossing a tablet on the table. "Same guy who passed her that fake USB. Marcus scrolled through the images. Security footage showed Olivia stumbling through the hallway, the look on her face, dazed, betrayed, terrified, stabbed at him. "And Ethan?" Marcus asked quietly. Dante nodded. "We traced an encrypted email from Ethan's office to a known burner server in Glendale, same one Stone's associates have used in the past. He's feeding them her movements." Marcus clenched his jaw. "She trusts him," he said bitterly. "He sits 2 desks from her, and she trusts him. She won't for long." Marcus stood, pacing the suite. "I need you to keep eyes on her," he said. "No contact, no interference. Just make sure no one touches her again." "You got it," Dante replied, already dialing another line. That night, Marcus stood across the street from Olivia's hotel, watching through the windows of the lobby cafe as she sipped tea and typed on her laptop, fingers slower than usual, posture stiff. He didn't approach. He couldn't, not yet. But the man who once promised never to interfere had officially crossed the threshold, not out of control, out of love. Back upstairs, Olivia closed her laptop and exhaled. Her head still pounded from the night before. Her notes were gone, and her source wasn't answering. But she wasn't backing down. Not after everything. She texted Marcus before bed. "Still here, still trying. Just wish you were closer." Across the street, Marcus read it, his heart breaking. "I am," he whispered. "You just don't know it yet." The man was shaking when Olivia met him. They sat in the back corner of a quiet bookstore cafe in Culver City, tucked between rows of biographies and poetry collections. It was just after sunset, and the air had cooled with the promise of nightfall. Olivia had chosen the spot deliberately. Low traffic, familiar lighting, and one entrance with a clear view of the street. "Are you sure you weren't followed?" she asked, keeping her voice calm. The man, early 30s, wire-rimmed glasses, pale skin damp with sweat, nodded nervously. I parked 4 blocks away and doubled back twice. I don't think they know. His name was Derek Faulkner, mid-level accountant at Weston Group, one of Victor Stone's shell companies. And he had something worth protecting. He reached into his coat and handed Olivia a slim, silver USB drive. This has copies of Stone's internal transfers, offshore payments, emails, stuff the legal team was told to delete last month. But I couldn't. I couldn't live with it. Olivia took the drive gently, sliding it into a fabric-lined pouch in her bag. Why now? Derek rubbed his hands together. Because people started disappearing. Quietly. I don't want to be next. She nodded. Thank you for trusting me. They agreed to meet later that night, midnight, in an empty lot 2 blocks from her hotel. Derek would bring paper files, things too dangerous to digitize. Be careful, he said as he left. Stone doesn't just destroy lives on paper. He's got muscle and money. Olivia walked the long route back to her hotel, every car that slowed, every passerby's glance now heavy with suspicion. The stolen notes, the party trap, the threatening call, it all added up to one truth. Victor knew she was close. And now she had proof. Across the city, Ethan Sharp stood inside a dark parking garage, arms crossed, phone pressed to his ear. A deep voice crackled through the speaker. She's meeting someone tonight. Another leak. Ethan hesitated. She said she's done. She's barely talked to anyone since the party. She's not done. And if that file gets out, we both go down. Ethan swallowed. What do you want me to do? Send us the meeting location. You know her patterns. She trusts you. Use that. Ethan looked away, guilt chewing at him like acid. This wasn't part of the deal. You made your deal when you sold her out the first time. This is just follow-through. Click. Ethan stared at his phone, thumb hovering over his messages. He knew Olivia still trusted him. Even after the coldness, the distance, he was still the person she CC'd on files and texted for formatting help. And now he was turning that trust into a weapon. He typed the address, then hit send. At 11:52 p.m., Olivia zipped her jacket and walked out of the hotel. The streets were quiet, save for the hum of a vending truck and the low murmur of a distant TV. She kept her bag close, the USB tucked into her inside pocket. She arrived at the lot at exactly midnight, empty. No Derek. She scanned the shadows, heart thudding. Then, footsteps. Fast. 3 figures stepped from the alley. Men. Unmarked clothes, faces half covered. One pointed. She's got it. Panic surged. She turned to run, but headlights flared behind her. A car engine roared, tires screeching into the lot. The men stumbled back. The car swerved between them and Olivia. The passenger door flew open. "Get in!" a voice yelled. Without thinking, Olivia dove inside. The car sped off. Behind them, the men shouted, one throwing something that bounced off the trunk with a dull thud. Olivia gasped, heart pounding, adrenaline making her dizzy. "Who are you?" she shouted at the driver. But he didn't answer, just nodded once in the mirror and disappeared into the city's night. 3 blocks away, Marcus parked behind a warehouse and stepped out, his face calm but hands shaking slightly. He pulled out his phone. "She's safe. Keep eyes on Faulkner." Then he drove off. He couldn't reveal himself yet. But tonight, he'd been exactly where she needed him. The adrenaline had long since faded, but Olivia's hands were still shaking as she poured herself a glass of water in her hotel room. The glass clinked softly against the counter. Her hair was damp from the shower she'd taken to calm her nerves, but the memory of the men's voices, the screeching tires, the open car door, it was all still too vivid. She didn't know who had saved her. All she knew was that someone had known, someone had watched, And if that someone hadn't shown up when they did... She pressed her palms flat against the marble counter, grounding herself. The USB was safe, the files intact. But the whistleblower, Derek, was gone, and she had no way of knowing if he was still alive. She sat down on the edge of the bed and opened her laptop. No new messages, no response from Derek, no tips, no backup. She typed one sentence in a private draft folder, saving it for herself. If anything happens to me, this is who you look at. Victor Stone, Weston Group, and the names on this drive. Then she closed the lid. 2 miles away, Marcus sat in a darkened van, eyes fixed on the surveillance feeds his team had pulled from nearby traffic cams. The attackers had used a burner car. No plates, no traceable movements, professional, trained, not random muscle. Dante, seated next to him, muttered, "We caught a partial face on one of them, match pending. Facial scans in queue." Marcus leaned forward. "And Derek Faulkner?" "Still missing. Last seen heading toward the lot. Never made it in. He's either laying low or someone got to him first." Marcus exhaled sharply through his nose, then rubbed his temples. "She doesn't know it was us," Dante added. "Good," Marcus said. "Let's keep it that way, for now." Dante paused. "But how long until you tell her?" Marcus didn't answer. He hadn't expected the attack to escalate so quickly, and Olivia was a target now, not just for her work, but because someone close to her was feeding the enemy, and that someone still hadn't shown their face. Back at the New York Chronicle, Ethan sat alone in the dim conference room, lit only by the glow of his laptop. A single text sat unsent on his screen. "It went too far. I didn't agree to this." He deleted it. He couldn't afford regret now. But the guilt curled around his chest like wire. Every time he thought of Olivia's voice, her trust, her easy laughter, the way she once asked him to read her lead for clarity, he felt it tighten. And yet, he'd sent the location. He'd handed her over. A new message lit up his inbox. From vstone @private ledger. Net subject, "Silence is survival." One line. "No more hesitation. Deliver the file, or we deliver the fallout." Ethan closed his laptop slowly. He was in deep now, and there was no clean exit. The next morning, Olivia sat at the breakfast table in the lobby cafe, stirring a spoon through her untouched coffee. Her eyes scanned the headlines, none of them hers. She felt the pressure mounting. Her story was breaking open behind the scenes, but until it went public, she was the one cracking. Her phone buzzed. Blocked number. She hesitated, then picked up. A disguised voice on the other end. Soft, urgent. "You have a leak on your team. Someone you trust. Be careful." The line cut off. Olivia stared at her phone, blood draining from her face. Someone inside the Chronicle. She looked around the cafe. Everything felt suddenly wrong. Then her phone lit up again. Message from unknown. "You weren't supposed to walk away from that parking lot." Her heart dropped. 2 blocks away, Marcus sat in a discreet SUV, watching her through the tinted window. "She just got the message," Dante said, checking the tracker. "Same burner that's been feeding Ethan." Marcus's hands curled into fists. "Enough," he said. "If they want war, we give them proof they can't bury." He looked up, voice cold and clear. "Start feeding her intel, anonymously. She deserves the truth, even if it doesn't come from me." Olivia sat at the small desk in her hotel room, the glow from her laptop illuminating her tired face. Outside, the sounds of LA nightlife echoed faintly. Honking cars, distant sirens, a dog barking somewhere down the block. but inside the only sound was the soft click of keys. She had been up since dawn, reconstructing every lead from memory. The files on the stolen notebook were gone, the printed pages lost during the attempted ambush, but the whistleblower's USB still safe. And now it had become her lifeline. Encrypted financial statements, corporate hierarchies, email chains that hinted at deeper corruption. Not enough to publish, but enough to prove the iceberg was real. She poured herself another cup of lukewarm coffee when a new email pinged. From unknown, subject, trust. No one, body. Ethan has been feeding Stone. You need to move fast. Check Weston's internal transfer logs from January 11th. Attached, scrubbed metadata trail. Olivia blinked, stunned. She opened the attachment, lines of clean data, with metadata linking one of Weston Group's transfers to an offshore subsidiary. One Ethan had asked her about in casual conversation a week before. Her chest tightened. Ethan? He'd been cold lately, sure. Distant. But betrayal? She didn't want to believe it, and yet her gut had been whispering it for days. She fired off a secure message to her tech contact in New York, asking for help verifying the logs. If this was real, she needed to connect the money to Stone. Names, signatures, timestamps. She needed undeniable truth. Another email came 5 minutes later. Second tip. Same unknown sender. Victor's Inner Circle meets every Tuesday at the Crescent Club. High-floor conference room, no phones allowed. Watch for Marcus V on guest list. Alias used by Stone's fixer. She sat back in her chair, stunned. This wasn't just helpful. It was surgical. Whoever was feeding her this information knew where to look. They weren't guessing. They were involved. Who are you? She typed into a reply window. No answer. Instead, another message landed in her inbox minutes later. You're not alone, but be smart. They're getting desperate. Her fingers trembled slightly. Elsewhere in L.A., Marcus stood in a nondescript office space, repurposed as a private command center. Monitors lined the walls, showing video feeds from city cameras, data scrolls, and satellite overlays. Dante crossed the room and handed him a flash drive. She took the bait, dug into the Weston logs. Did she respond? Marcus asked, keeping his tone neutral. No, but she's moving. I've got her booking a background check on Stone's fixer. That should lead her straight to the Crescent Club. Marcus nodded, then looked out the window at the hazy city skyline. She's rebuilding the story, piece by piece. Without knowing, you're the one handing her the pieces. Marcus rubbed the back of his neck. She doesn't need me to be the hero. She just needs the truth, Yente hesitated. You sure she won't see this as a betrayal when it all comes out? Marcus's jaw tightened. If she does, I'll live with it. I'd rather she hate me alive than love me and be dead. That night, Olivia visited the rooftop lounge of her hotel to get air. She didn't bring her laptop or phone, just a legal pad and pen. She stared at the Los Angeles skyline, drawing connections between people, places, money trails, Ethan's name, Stone's aliases, the Crescent Club. The lines were forming again, and this time she wouldn't let them break. Below her, the city hummed like a living thing, but she knew now that underneath the lights and glass was something much darker, and she was walking straight into it. But she wasn't walking in blind. The first blow came quietly. A message from her editor. Short, impersonal, subject, urgent. Olivia, need you to call me immediately regarding story status. We've received concerning information. Olivia Hartley sat frozen in her hotel room, fingers hovering over the trackpad. Her coffee had gone cold. She could feel something shifting beneath her feet. She dialed. Liv, said Eleanor Chang, voice tight. We've got a problem. What kind of problem? There's an email circulating. From your Chronicle address. What? Olivia frowned. I haven't sent anything today. It's a draft. Sent from your work login, time-stamped last night after hours. It claims your Weston Group investigation was fabricated. Says you falsified data. Accuses you of professional misconduct and targeting Stone for personal gain. I didn't write that, Olivia said, her throat going dry. You know I didn't. I want to believe that, Eleanor replied. But the board doesn't take leaks lightly, especially when they're this detailed. Someone's already sent it to 2 media watchdog blogs. We're going to have to issue a response. Olivia stood abruptly. I can prove the files are real. I have the original whistleblower's USB, metadata. I've been cross-checking every source. I know, but there's more. Eleanor sighed. Ethan gave a statement this morning. What? Olivia's pulse jumped. What kind of statement? He backed the leaked email, claimed you took liberties with the data, said he voiced concerns last week and you dismissed them. The air around Olivia thinned. He's lying. I hope so, Eleanor said. But right now, perception is drowning the facts. You're being suspended pending internal review. Effective immediately. No communications until legal clears your status. Eleanor, please. I'm sorry, Liv. I truly am. The line went dead. Olivia stood in stunned silence. The room suddenly felt too quiet, too still. She paced once, twice. Her legs felt weak, but her anger kept her upright. Victor was fighting back, and this time he was using her own newsroom as the battlefield. And Ethan was the one helping him plant the bombs. She stared out the window, watching as a man walked his dog across the street. 2 teenagers laughed outside a taco stand. The world was moving, indifferent to the weight pressing down on her. She'd worked her entire career to earn integrity, to stand for truth in a world more interested in headlines than honesty. And now it was all unraveling. She slumped into the chair by the window and finally let her hands tremble. Her phone buzzed again. Blocked number. She let it go to voicemail. Then the message came through. Told you to walk away. You should have listened. She closed her eyes. For a moment, she felt completely alone. But then, another notification. Encrypted email from unknown. Don't panic. I'm sending you something that will flip this story on its head. You just have to hold the line. One more day. Attached was a low-res screenshot of a surveillance video frame. 2 men, one clearly recognizable as Victor Stone. The other, Ethan. The timestamp read, 3 days prior, a closed-door meeting, undisclosed location. Olivia stared at it, her jaw tightening. They'd planned this for longer than she realized. Every move, every betrayal, engineered. But they underestimated one thing. She wasn't built to break. Elsewhere in L.A., Marcus studied the same image from his screen, seated in the secure room with Dante. She's got it now, Dante said. Marcus nodded. Good. Let her fight back with truth. I'll handle the rest. You sure you're ready for the next move? Marcus exhaled slowly. She's lost everything because of this. Her story, her name, her faith in people. He stood, steady and resolved. It's time. We show them what happens when you push the wrong woman too far. The newsroom felt different when Olivia stepped inside. Colder, quieter, as if her presence triggered a silent alarm. She hadn't told anyone she was flying back to New York. She just showed up, armed with nothing but her name and the truth still burning in her chest. People glanced up as she passed their desks, then quickly looked away. No greetings, no smiles. She paused outside Eleanor Chang's office. Her fingers hovered near the door. Then she knocked. "Come in," came the voice, weary but composed. Eleanor sat behind her desk, glasses off, rubbing the bridge of her nose. When she looked up, surprise flickered across her face. "Olivia!" "I need 5 minutes," Olivia said, already stepping inside. Eleanor gestured for her to sit. "You're technically under suspension. I'm not supposed to meet with you." "I'm not here to plead for my job," Olivia replied. "I'm here because you still believe in facts. So, let's deal with facts." She opened her folder and laid out the evidence. The anonymous email tips, the metadata trail connecting Stone to offshore laundering, and the image. Victor and Ethan, seated in a private meeting room, time-stamped 3 days before the leaked memo. Eleanor looked over the documents slowly. Her eyes narrowed at the photo. "Where did you get this?" "Anonymous source. Same one who fed me the Weston Trail. They're inside, Eleanor. Someone's trying to bury this story, and me along with it." The editor leaned back in her chair, the weight of the decision plain in her face. Olivia pushed on. "You've known me 5 years. I've never once printed a story without verification. Never once bent the truth for headlines. I earned every word I've written." "I know that," Eleanor said softly. "Then why are you treating me like I'm disposable?" Silence stretched between them. Finally, Eleanor spoke, voice low. "Because they threatened to sue. Not just you. The Chronicle. Me. Everyone associated with this. They sent a packet of doctored timelines, internal emails. Some of them looked real, Liv. Legal panicked. The board did too. But now you have the real ones," Olivia said. "Right here, from the man they're protecting." Eleanor stared at the documents, conflicted. "I'll talk to legal again," she said, "but I can't make promises." Olivia stood slowly. "I'm not asking for promises. I'm asking you to stop playing defense when someone is committing a crime in plain sight." She left the folder on the desk and walked out, heart pounding. The elevator ride down was silent. But the moment she stepped outside, the cold January air hit her like a slap, and she finally exhaled. She was done begging. That night, Marcus stood in his private study in Manhattan, watching a monitor that displayed real-time social mentions and press chatter. Olivia's name was trending again, but still under the smear, still slanted, still full of doubt. He closed the screen and dialed a number. "Put it through," he said. Seconds later, a news anchor answered. "Mr. Holloway, didn't expect to hear from you." "I want to go on record," Marcus said. "Not as Lexford's CEO, as someone who knows what Olivia Hartley is up against. I'm releasing a full report tonight. Documents, financials, confirmed testimonies." The voice hesitated. "You're willing to attach your name?" "I'm willing to attach my life." By morning, inboxes across the industry were flooded. The Holloway Report, an insider's trail of fraud at Weston Group. Emails, audio clips, whistleblower affidavits. Even Ethan's recorded phone call confirming Stone's role in falsifying Olivia's leak. It hit every major outlet like a tidal wave. And at the center of it was a letter from Marcus. "You can't silence a voice like Olivia's. You can try to smear her, bury her work, but truth doesn't scare easy, and neither does she." Olivia stood in the middle of her living room, phone in one hand, the other gripping the back of a chair to steady herself. She'd just finished reading the Holloway Report. Every source, every quote, every email, meticulously compiled, legally vetted, and undeniably true. But what stopped her cold was the author's name. Marcus Holloway, CEO, Lexford Holdings. Her Marcus. The quiet man who loved coffee dates and classic jazz, who claimed to run a small investment firm and always paid in cash. The one who made her feel safe and never once bragged, pushed, or demanded the spotlight. The man she thought she knew. Her phone buzzed, Marcus calling. She let it ring twice before answering. "You released the report," she said flatly. I did. Silence pulsed between them. You're Lexford's CEO? Yes. She inhaled slowly, the air thick with betrayal. You watched me get suspended. You watched my name dragged across headlines, and you said nothing. I was trying to protect you, he said softly. I didn't want my position or my money to be what saved you. I wanted you to win this, because you could, because you deserved to. She let that sit. Then, when did it stop being about protection and start being about control? His voice caught. It never was. But the crack in her heart had already spread. I want to talk, she said, face to face. They met that evening in Central Park, away from flashing cameras and boardrooms. The wind was sharp, but the snow had melted, leaving behind a glistening city soaked in honesty. Marcus waited near the reservoir, hands in his coat pockets. Olivia approached slowly, stopping a few feet away. I read everything, she said. The report, the letter, your name on the documents. It's all over the media now. He nodded. I know. I don't even know where to start. Then start with the truth, he said quietly. The same thing you fought for every day of your life. She looked up, her eyes wet but unflinching. Why didn't you tell me, Marcus? Not just last week, not even last month, ever. I would have understood. I didn't want you to love the version of me that came with power, he replied. I wanted you to love the man who stood next to you in bookstores and asked you questions about subheadings and grammar. I didn't hide because I didn't trust you. I hid because I didn't trust the world not to change how you saw me. Her expression softened, but only slightly. You should have trusted me enough to let me decide. He nodded, ashamed. I know, and I'll regret that part for a long time. They stood in silence. The hum of the city buzzed behind them, life going on despite everything. Finally, Olivia spoke. I don't need a man to rescue me, Marcus. I know. But I do need one who tells me the truth. I'm telling it now, he said. Every bit of it. I leaked the intel. I followed you in L.A. I pulled surveillance on your attackers, and when you almost didn't make it out of that parking lot. I was the one who drove that car. She blinked, breath caught. That was you? He nodded. She turned away for a long moment, letting the weight settle, letting the anger run its course. Then she turned back. You saved me. You also lied to me, and I don't know yet which part matters more. I'll wait, he said softly, as long as it takes. You don't owe me forgiveness. You never did. But if there's any part of you that still sees the man beneath all this. She stopped him with a raised hand. Let me figure that out for myself. He nodded once, respectfully, gratefully. She walked away slowly, heels crunching over gravel, the winter wind catching her coat. But she didn't look back, not yet. The article dropped at 6:02 a.m. sharp. By 6:17, Olivia's inbox was overflowing. Subject, urgent interview request, CNN. Subject, incredible work. NPR. Subject, I owe you an apology. Eleanor Chang. She sat on her couch, still in a hoodie and leggings, knees pulled close to her chest. The sun hadn't risen fully, but the glow from her laptop lit her face like a small victory flame. The headline read, Stone uncovered, inside the billion-dollar fraud and the colleagues who tried to bury it. It was Olivia's byline. Alone. No mention of co-authors, no shared credit. Inside were the leaked documents, whistleblower quotes, financial trails, and a devastating transcript of Ethan's conversation with Stone, negotiating a promotion in exchange for selling Olivia out. Olivia's editor had added a note of correction to previous company statements, clearing her name. It was more than vindication. It was justice. By 9:00 a.m., news vans began circling Victor Stone's L.A. office. By 11 Hunquo, federal agents arrived. Victor Stone was arrested without incident, though the footage of him ducking into the back of a black SUV became the centerpiece of every network loop for the next 12 hours. Ethan's desk at the New York Chronicle sat empty by noon, his ID badge dropped on the HR desk like a final admission. Olivia watched it all unfold from the corner of her living room. The footage, the headlines, the hashtags. Hashtag Olivia was right trended by lunchtime. People called her brave, a warrior, a voice for truth. But inside, she still felt quiet, not broken, but worn. The truth had come out. Her name had been cleared. Her reporting had sparked a national reckoning. And yet, a part of her still ached. Because the man who had helped make it happen, the man who saved her more times than she could count, was also the man who'd hidden the most from her. She hadn't spoken to Marcus since the night in the park. No calls, no texts, just the echo of his words. "You don't owe me forgiveness. You never did." She didn't know if she was ready to forgive, but she did know one thing. He hadn't done any of it to be seen. He had done it because he loved her. That afternoon, Olivia met with Eleanor in a corner booth of a quiet cafe in Soho. Eleanor stirred her tea, then finally said, "I was wrong." Olivia nodded once. "Yes, you were. I let fear talk louder than fact. I let pressure make me doubt the one reporter who never gave me a reason to." Olivia looked up. "You believed the lie because it was easier than confronting the corruption. But you printed the truth when it mattered. That still counts for something." Eleanor met her gaze, misty-eyed. "You're the strongest journalist I've ever worked with. I hope you stay, but if you don't, wherever you go next, they'll be lucky to have you." Olivia didn't answer right away. She wasn't sure if she wanted to stay. Not yet. Instead, she turned her gaze toward the window, where snow had started to fall. Soft, clean, steady. That evening, as dusk settled across Manhattan, Olivia opened the door to her apartment and found a box on the doormat. No name, no address. Inside was a single item. A copy of her published article, framed, and beneath it, in handwriting she'd recognize anywhere. For the woman who never needed saving, just space to rise. M. She stood there for a long moment, letting the weight of the words settle in. Then she smiled. Soft, real. Maybe forgiveness didn't need to be spoken. Maybe it just needed to be lived. The knock on the door came just after 7. Olivia already knew it was him. She'd sent the message earlier that morning. Simple, direct. "If you're free tonight, I'd like to talk. No pressure, just honesty." She opened the door to find Marcus standing in the hallway, his wool coat dusted with snow, a paper bag in one hand. "I brought that roasted tomato soup you like," he said, "and fresh sourdough." Olivia stepped aside. That was a good guess. He gave her a cautious smile, then walked in, pausing just past the threshold as if unsure how far he was allowed to go. The apartment was warm, filled with the soft scent of candles and rosemary. She'd tidied earlier, not out of obligation, but because she wanted the space to feel calm, for both of them. She gestured toward the kitchen. "I'll grab bowls." They ate mostly in silence, the kind that felt more thoughtful than strained. Finally, Olivia set down her spoon and met his eyes. "I read your letter," she said. "The one in the box." Marcus nodded. "I wasn't sure if I should send it. I didn't want to push." "It wasn't pressure," she said. "It was grounding." He looked down at his hands. "I spent so long hiding who I was because I thought the truth would undo us." Olivia leaned forward. "And yet, it was the lie that almost did." He exhaled. "I know. I told myself I was protecting you, but really, I was protecting myself, from the possibility that you'd see me differently, or walk away." I might have, she said honestly. Not because of the money, but because of how you hid it, like I wasn't strong enough to handle the full picture. He flinched slightly, but didn't argue. That wasn't fair to you, he said. You've always been stronger than me in the ways that mattered most. You run into storms with a pen and a microphone. I run spreadsheets and erase footprints. She gave a soft, bittersweet smile. And yet, you saved my life. I didn't want to be your rescue story, Olivia. I wanted to be the man beside you when you made history. You were, even when I didn't know it. They sat in silence again, but this time something eased between them. Finally, she asked, "Why did you really build Lexford in the shadows? You could have been a public name. You had the money, the connections." Marcus leaned back. "Because I saw what power did to people like Stone. It twisted them. It made them think the world owed them something. I never wanted that. I just wanted enough reach to help where it mattered and stay out of the headlines." "And yet," she said, her voice low, "you put your name on my story." "I didn't do that for exposure. I did it because your name was being buried, and I couldn't watch that happen. I couldn't let you carry the fight alone." Olivia swallowed hard, emotions rising. "So, what now? We just go back to being us?" Marcus met her gaze, steady and clear. "We start again. From truth this time. No masks, no pretending. And if you still want me beside you, I'm here. Not as the man I pretended to be, but as the man who loves you, completely." Tears burned at the corners of her eyes. She reached for his hand. "I don't know how to forget the hurt," she whispered, "but I can work on forgiving it." He nodded. "That's enough for me." They sat there for a long time, fingers intertwined, the world outside slowly fading. Love didn't erase betrayal, but it could rebuild trust, brick by brick. And tonight, they'd laid the first one together. The cabin was quiet, nestled just outside Woodstock, New York, surrounded by snow-dusted trees and a sky so blue it felt like a reset button. Olivia stepped out onto the wooden porch, a steaming mug of tea in her hands, and exhaled. Deep, slow, full. No phone, no laptops, no press conferences, just her, just Marcus, just space. Inside, Marcus was stirring eggs on the stove, still in flannel pajama pants and a faded college sweatshirt. He looked relaxed in a way she hadn't seen in weeks. No briefings, no encrypted calls, no second-guessing every word. "Want toast?" he called from the kitchen. "Always," Olivia replied, smiling as she stepped back in. They moved in tandem, her setting plates, him plating eggs and pan-fried potatoes. It was the kind of rhythm that felt lived in, like the grooves of a well-worn record. Safe, steady. As they sat across from each other, sunlight warming the wooden table, Olivia reached across and took his hand. "I missed this," she said. Marcus looked at her, not with apology, but presence. "Me too." There had been so much said in the past few days, honesty laid bare, hurt unpacked without blame, forgiveness offered in layers rather than declarations. They didn't pretend everything was perfect, but they'd chosen to show up for each other, which mattered more. Olivia sipped her tea. "Everyone's asking what I'll write next." He smiled. "What are you telling them?" "That I'm still deciding." She shrugged. "I've been chasing stories for so long I forgot what silence felt like." He nodded. "It's not overrated." A beat of comfortable quiet passed. Then she added, "There's talk about turning the investigation into a long-form podcast, with my voice." "I'd listen," he said gently. "I'd make sure you got the early drafts," she teased, nudging his foot under the table. After breakfast, they bundled up and walked through the woods behind the cabin. The air was crisp, the kind that filled your lungs with something cleansing. Olivia watched the wind move through the branches and thought how strange it was that life could collapse and rebuild in such short, powerful bursts. She glanced at Marcus. You know, I never wanted perfect. He looked over. What did you want? Something real. Something where I didn't have to be strong all the time. Marcus stopped walking, turning to face her fully. You don't. Not with me. She stepped closer. But I also don't want to be protected from everything. I don't want love that edits out the hard parts. I know, he said. That's why I'm learning how to let you walk into fire, even when it scares the hell out of me. Her throat tightened. Thank you. They stood in the stillness, winter holding them in its soft embrace. I think, she whispered, that this is the beginning of something better than what we had before. He cupped her face gently, not because we fixed it all, but because we faced it. She nodded, eyes glistening. Exactly. They kissed beneath the trees, slow and warm, like a promise whispered instead of shouted. Back at the cabin later that evening, Olivia curled beside Marcus on the couch, a fire crackling in the stone hearth. Her head rested against his chest, their legs tangled under a shared blanket. You ever think about writing again? Marcus asked. Every day, she admitted. But now, I want to write something not just about truth, but about how hard it is to carry it and still choose love. He kissed the top of her head. Sounds like a story I'd read. They didn't need more headlines. They didn't need to prove anything to the world. Because sometimes, the strongest endings are quiet. Built not on secrets, but on truth, not on rescue, but on choosing each other, every day. And, for Olivia and Marcus, that was more than enough. Thank you for watching till the end. If this story touched your heart, made you think, or brought a tear to your eye, that's why we tell it. Stay with us for more powerful stories. See you next time.